podcast Welcome to Our Relationships, where people share their real-life relationship stories and ask for advice. Today, I want to tell you about something that happened with my boyfriend, a professional magician, and why I'm seriously considering breaking up with him. I'm a 24-year-old woman in grad school and he's 27. We've been together for a little over a year. And while our relationship started off wonderful, things took a strange turn after we moved in together. My boyfriend loves magic tricks. It's not just his job, he performs at parties and events, but it's also how he brings fun into everyday life. At first, I found his magic charming and entertaining. He could make small objects disappear and reappear, and it always made me smile. But lately, his tricks have become less about fun and more about pushing boundaries. The worst was when he pulled a card out of my most private place during an intimate moment. It was unexpected, shocking, and honestly, it made me question everything. I never imagined a magic trick would make me want to end my relationship, but here I am, confused and hurt. This story is about how something meant to be fun turned into a serious problem. We met about a year and 3 months ago at a local coffee shop near campus. I was studying archaeology, and he was performing a magic show for a small crowd nearby. I remember being drawn to his confidence and the way he could make people laugh with his tricks. After the show, we started talking, and it felt natural, like we had known each other for much longer. Our first few months together were full of fun and laughter. He was thoughtful, always surprising me with little magic acts that made ordinary days feel special. I admired how passionate he was about his career. He performed at birthday parties, weddings, and events, and I loved seeing him in his element. Despite our different paths, me diving into dusty artifacts and him into illusions, we found common ground in respect and love. About 9 months into our relationship, I went on a 2-month archaeological dig overseas for school. It was tough, being apart, but he supported me fully. He sent gifts, letters, and even small magic tricks for my colleagues. It showed how much he cared, and I trusted him completely. When I returned, we decided to move in together for our 1-year anniversary. At first I thought it would bring us closer, but living together changed things. Before, we only saw each other a few times a week because of my busy schedule. Now, we were together all the time. His magic tricks, which used to feel sweet, began to wear on me. He'd make my keys vanish when I was rushing out the door or try card tricks while I was studying late. I tried to set gentle boundaries, but it felt like those lines were slowly disappearing. I'm someone who values respect and trust, especially in relationships, and I was starting to feel uncomfortable with how often he mixed magic into our everyday life once we moved in together. My boyfriend's magic tricks didn't just continue, they became more frequent and harder to ignore. At first I found it charming. For example, I'd be getting ready to leave the apartment and suddenly my keys would vanish. I'd panic for a moment, only for him to reappear with them in his hand, flashing a cheeky grin. Sometimes, while I was buried in my textbooks, he'd shuffle a deck of cards and try out new sleight of hand moves, asking me to pick a card or guess how he did the trick. It was his way of keeping things playful, and I liked that about him. But as the days went on, I started feeling mixed emotions. I was amused by the surprises, but also a little uncomfortable. These tricks interrupted my focus more often than I wanted. One evening, I was trying to relax after a long day, and he magically made my phone disappear right when I needed to call my boss. Another time, during a quiet dinner, he turned the salt shaker into a rabbit classic, but not exactly appropriate for the moment. I tried to brush off the discomfort, but it kept growing. I gently asked him to ease up on the magic, especially during my study hours and when I needed quiet time. He promised to respect that, but the tricks kept slipping back in. I felt like my personal boundaries were being pushed without me fully realizing it yet. Living with him was a new adventure, but I wondered if his obsession with magic was starting to take over my life. What began as innocent fun was starting to feel like a loss of control over my own space. One night, everything changed. We were intimate, a space where I always felt safe and connected with him. The mood was right, and I was completely relaxed. Then suddenly, he did something I wasn't prepared for. Right in the middle of our closeness, he reached into my body and pulled out a small coin. I froze. I was shocked and immediately felt a wave of discomfort wash over me. What was happening? Was this supposed to be a joke? It felt invasive and wrong. He burst out laughing, clearly finding it hilarious, like he had just pulled off the best trick of his life. But I was hurt and confused. I told him I didn't like it and asked him to stop, but he waved it off. He said I was overreacting, that it was all in good fun and I needed to lighten up. Later, I tried to explain how that moment made me feel violated and disrespected. I told him intimacy wasn't the place for magic tricks like that. Instead of apologizing, he dismissed my feelings, acting like I was making a big deal out of nothing. It was painful to feel so unheard. That night, I lay awake struggling to process everything. What I had thought was a playful quirk had crossed a serious boundary. I realized I needed to decide if I could trust him to respect my limits or if this was a sign of bigger problems ahead. I felt torn between love and discomfort, unsure how to protect myself while staying connected to the man I cared about. After the coin incident, I needed to talk to someone. I confided in a few close friends, hoping for support or at least understanding. But their reactions surprised me. Most of them laughed when I told the story. "It's just a silly magic trick," they said. "You should lighten up, it's not a big deal." Some even joked that I must be boring if I couldn't take a joke. Their laughter made me question myself. Was I really overreacting? Maybe I was being too sensitive or controlling. After all, he had been playful and fun for so long. Was this just a weird one-time thing that I should forget about? Despite their reassurances, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling inside. The incident felt personal and invasive to me. I felt conflicted. Part of me wanted to trust my friend's perspective and move on, while another part felt like my boundaries were being dismissed. I decided to give him some space, hoping the tension would ease. I told myself to let it go and focus on the good parts of our relationship, but deep down I stayed on edge. I was more cautious, watching his behavior closely, wondering when or if he would cross the line again. The laughter of my friends echoed in my mind as I wrestled with my feelings. Was this just harmless fun, or was it something more serious? I didn't have an answer, but I knew I couldn't ignore my gut. A few weeks later, the boundary crossing happened again. This time it was worse. While we were relaxing on the couch when he pulled out a long coiled ribbon, a magic prop he often used in his shows. He waved it around, making it twist and turn like it had a life of its own. Then, without warning, he slowly wound the ribbon around my wrist, slipping it underneath my shirt and down toward my waist. I froze, my heart pounded. This wasn't just a joke or a playful trick, it felt like an invasion of my personal space. I told him to stop, but he just laughed and said, "Come on, it's just for fun. I want to show you the trick." I pulled away, anger rising. How could he not understand how uncomfortable I was? I reminded him of the coin incident, how I had asked him to respect my boundaries. Yet here he was, crossing the line again like my feelings didn't matter. I felt betrayed. How could someone I loved disregard my comfort? So I trust, once strong between us, now felt fragile and broken. This wasn't just about magic anymore. It was about respect and control. He didn't see it that way. To him it was all light-hearted fun, nothing more. But to me, it was a clear step deeper into territory I had warned him not to enter. That night, I sat alone with my thoughts, grappling with the reality that our relationship was changing. The magic that once made me smile now left a bitter taste. I wondered how many more times I would have to say no before he finally listened. After the ribbon incident, I knew something had to change. I couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. So, I gathered my courage and told him that I needed some space, that he should stay elsewhere for a while. I needed time to think and figure out what was happening between us. When I explained why, he shrugged it off. He said I was overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. He didn't see how serious it was. No apology, no real acknowledgement of my feelings, just excuses and defensiveness. That hurt more than anything. I felt invisible, like my discomfort didn't matter. I wanted him to understand the weight of what he had done, but he refused to listen. Every time I tried to talk, he dismissed me or changed the subject. My emotions were a whirlwind. Anger, sadness, confusion, and fear all tangled together. I questioned everything I thought I knew about our relationship. Was this the person I had fallen in love with? Could I still trust him? Was this really how love was supposed to feel? I wasn't sure anymore. The man who had once made me feel safe and cherished now made me doubt myself. And the silence between us grew heavier with every passing day. The space I created was supposed to help me heal, but instead it only deepened my uncertainty. I didn't know if we could move forward or if this was the beginning of the end. To truly understand why these boundary violations hurt me so deeply, you need to know a bit about who I am. I identify as demisexual. That means I don't experience sexual attraction unless I've formed a strong emotional bond with someone first. For me, trust and emotional connection are not just important, they are the foundation of any intimate relationship. Because of this, any violation of trust in a sexual or intimate context feels like a deep betrayal. It's not just about the act itself, but what it represents. A disregard for my feelings, my comfort, and the safe space I thought we had built together. When my boyfriend pulled those magic tricks on me during private moments, it wasn't funny or playful to me. It was invasive, and it broke the trust I depended on to feel close to him outside of my relationship. I'm a university student studying psychology, and I also work part-time at a bookstore. These parts of my life are structured and predictable, offering me a sense of stability. I value clear boundaries and respect, both personally and professionally. That's why this chaos with my boyfriend felt so disorienting. It clashed with who I am and what I need to feel safe. The emotional turmoil made me question my own needs and whether I was being unreasonable. Sometimes, I wondered if I was overreacting or expecting too much, but at the core, I knew my boundaries were valid. I needed respect and trust to maintain any sense of intimacy. Without that, I couldn't see how our relationship could survive. Right now, I'm caught in a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, hurt, and uncertainty. After everything that's happened, I don't know if I should try to fix things or if it's time to walk away. My boyfriend and I have shared so much, but these repeated boundary violations have chipped away at the foundation of trust, I find. myself questioning everything. Is this just a phase? Am I being too sensitive? Or is this a sign that we're fundamentally incompatible? I've reached out here to the Reddit community because I desperately need some clarity. Some days I feel like I'm overreacting. Other days I feel completely justified in my feelings. It's hard to sort through my emotions when the person I trusted the most seems to dismiss my discomfort as trivial or a joke. The responses I've received so far have been mixed. Some people understand my pain and encourage me to stand firm on my boundaries. Others say I should lighten up or that it's just magic tricks. Hearing that dismisses what I'm going through, and it makes me feel even more isolated. I'm grateful for the support but also overwhelmed by conflicting opinions. This has become more than just about magic tricks. It's about respect, trust, and how much I am willing to tolerate before my own well-being suffers. I want to believe in us, but I also need to protect myself. So here I am asking you all, what would you do in my place? Should I try harder to make this relationship work, or is it time to accept that some things can't be fixed? Your advice means more than you know. Looking back, I remember the early days of our relationship, the laughter, the shared dreams, and the feeling that we could overcome anything together. There was a time when his magic amazed me, not just because of the tricks, but because of the way he made me feel special and loved. We built something real over the years, a bond I thought was unbreakable. But now, with trust frayed and boundaries crossed, I'm left wondering if that foundation was ever as strong as I believed. The uncertainty hangs over me like a shadow, making every moment feel fragile. I don't have the answers yet, and maybe I never will. The question I face every day is difficult and raw. Should I stay and fight for the love we once had, or should I leave to protect my own heart? I'm reaching out to you, those who have faced similar crossroads or simply understand what it means to feel torn between love and self-respect. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Should I stay or leave?
That wraps up today's episode of r/Payback. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories.